Good evening, guys. All of you tested admin API, whatever the code I have given. Are you guys able to test our admin API functionality? Is it working as expected? Any issues identified? Anybody tested that application through Postman? Guys, are you able to test it from the Postman? Anybody done that? Any issues identified in our admin API? Any code fixes we need to do? No response. I'm not getting any response from anybody. Okay. Anybody tested or not? Please give me the confirmation. Is it working as expected or not? Any code fixes are required for the admin API. Okay. Let's start with the AR. People are not responding. Good, guys. So in our application, there is another functionality that is related to application registration. As we discussed in our previous classes, when user visit the nearest DHS office to create the application, then caseworker will collect the data from the citizen and they will create application for the citizen. So to create the application for the citizen, citizen identity should be verified. Citizen identity should be verified. So to verify citizen identity here, our application is going to communicate with the third-party API called SSA Web API. It is going to communicate with the third-party API called SSA Web API. If a citizen identity is correct, then the application will be created for the citizen. Otherwise, application will not be created for the citizen. We need to develop that AR API in our IAS application. So it is responsible to create citizen. It is responsible to verify the citizen identity. If citizen identity is correct, then create the application. Otherwise, don't create the application for that citizen. All right. Perfect. Now, AR API development, as we discussed for AR API earlier, there is a table called IAS apps table is available. IAS apps table is available. IAS apps table, which is used to store the citizen application details. Okay. Let me go to start.spring.io website to create a project. Let me create one Maven project, Spring Boot version, group ID in.ashok IT, demo. I'm going to take it as 02 AR API. So project package 02 AR API. Packaging type is jar, Java version. Adding the dependencies, as we discussed, web dependency is required and web flux also required because I want to create web client to communicate with the third-party API, and we need actuator dependency, Spring Boot actuator, and Spring security dependency, dev tools we are using, reactive web is required, boot actuator, security, dev tools, data JPA, MySQL starter, MySQL driver is required for this. It is communicating with the third-party API. If that citizen belongs to RI state, then we will create the application. Otherwise, we don't create the application. So I'm taking reactive web dependency for web flux, actuator to monitor and manage our application, security dependency to add the basic HTTP security for our application, dev tools, data JPA, and MySQL driver we are adding. Click on generate. That application will be downloaded as a zip file. Let us go to this zip, extract this zip file so that we can see our application code there. Go to this folder. Now zip file is created. Let me extract this zip. 02 AR API is available. Let me take this project folder. Let me keep in our workspace folder to import that into our IDE. This is workspace. Admin API, AR API. Go to ToolSuite IDE. As we discussed, we are using ToolSuite IDE to develop our applications. STS IDE I'm opening. Using this STS, I will import that project into our IDE. 23 JRTP workspace AR API. Copy the path. Go to the project workspace. Let me import the project into our IDE. I created the project from ToolSuite website and I have downloaded. Let me import that project into my IDE. Good. File, import, existing Maven projects. Browse this, click on finish. The project is importing 02 AR API. So AR API logic we are writing here. One minute. Yes, the project is opened. In this project also, we need to add some Swagger dependencies, guys, to generate the documentation for our application. Swagger dependency is required. Let me take the Swagger. Good. Go to pom.xml. Let us go for Swagger. Yes, Swagger dependencies are added. Now, we need to create some packages like bindings, config, constant, entities, repositories, service, and util classes. So let me create those things first. We need to create a package for entity classes, new package. So in dot Ashok IT dot entities, where we will create the entity classes in our project. Then similarly, repositories are required. Let me go for a package in dot Ashok IT dot repositories. A package is created. Similarly, we need to create a package for service in dot Ashok IT dot service, and we need to create a package for REST controller in dot Ashok IT dot REST, and any util classes that are required, you can create a package, and Swagger config is required in dot Ashok IT dot config, and we need to create a package for the exceptions in dot Ashok IT dot exception. Okay. Then in dot package in dot Ashok IT dot constants, any constants that are required, any properties that are required, we are going to create in dot Ashok IT dot properties. So if you see, I'm following base package naming convention. In my Spring Boot application, start class is created. That is entry point for the boot application. So along with that base package, config package, constants package, entities, exception, properties, repositories, REST, service package is created. So do I need to create anything else? Binding. I need to create one package called binding package. So which is used to represent the data in dot Ashok IT dot binding. I need to create one binding package where we can create our binding classes in dot Ashok IT dot bindings. To map our request data and response data, we are going to use this bindings package. Let me open the screens for that, guys. Forgot password. Let me go to our project. Let me open index.html. Yeah, my application is open. So here you can see the screen to create the application. Create application screen is available. And once the application is created, application number will be generated. View applications, the applications which are available will be displayed. It's very simple functionality. It's very simple functionality to create the application and to view the application. Now, here bindings, config, constant, entities, exception, properties, repositories, REST package, service package. So first let me go with the entities. Now, here we need to create one entity class with a name called app entity. Okay. So when user application is created, that will be stored in the app entity. Let me represent this as entity annotation so that this class is considered as the entity class. Let me write @table. So @table name is equal to IES_apps. Applications will be created. So what information we need to store in the application? Case number will be generated. Private long case number. Case number we are calling as a primary key and generated value. For every citizen, one case number will be generated. That is unique for that. So strategy. What is the strategy we are using? Identity strategy we are using. So this is mandate, right? App entity will be created. His name, that citizen name, email ID, mobile number, gender, date of birth, SSN, we are going to take. So private string full name, name of the citizen, email ID of the citizen, private string full name, private string email, then private string gender, private local date, date of birth, the DOB of the citizen, mobile number, private long phone number. Okay. Then next one, SSN number will be available. That is also a long value. Private long SSN number. So like this, we are taking some variables here. For these variables, this is entity. This entity will be created by some user. User is nothing but a citizen, case worker, right? So case worker entity already we have created. User entity. That user entity I'm representing here. User entity will be available. So user entity will be available here. That user entity is going to represent the application created by which user. So for this, we are going to specify private user entity of user. So which user created this application? So applications will be created for the citizens by the case worker. Which case worker created that, we are going to represent that here. Private user entity, many to one relationship will be available. Many applications can be created by single user. Many applications can be created by single user. Okay. So that user entity having a relationship with the plan entity. Let me keep that entity here. Right. That is the plan entity here. Lombok. Let me remove this thing. Lombok we are not using because we will get some Stack Overflow issue when we have the Lombok here. Now I'm going to write setters and getters for this entity class. So one entity we have taken, that is called app entity. App entity will represent citizen application data. When the citizen application is created, case number will be generated. So this is having many to one relation. This is having many to one relation. So here multiple applications can be created by single user. So for that, we are using many to one relation, and we are going to specify @join column name is equal to user underscore ID. So which user created this? Which user created this will be represented here. App entity is having a relationship with the user entity. Good. App entity is created. For the app entity, we need to create one repository. So app repository should be created to store the data. So go to repository package, app repository, new interface, app repo. Application repository will be available. This application repository should extend the properties from JPA repository. So this is belongs to app entity, comma, the primary key is a long value. So in the app entity case number, I'm taking as a long value. So data type I'm giving as a long type. Perfect. With this, our entity is ready and repository is also ready. Then after binding classes, So request will come and response will come. So here to represent the request and response, we are taking binding classes. Here I'm taking one class with a name called app. App is a binding class. How many applications are available? Creating a single application and retrieving all the applications can be represented by using our binding class. So whatever the variables we have in the entity, the same variables we are going to take in the binding to display them. Private, long, case number, private, string, full name, private, string, email, private, long, phone number, private, local date, TOB, okay, private, long, SSN. So this information I'm taking in my binding class. So which is used to take the data from the form and which is used to display the list of applications available. Let me take setters and getters for this. So full name, email ID, case number, full name, email ID, phone number, gender is missing. We need one variable to store gender data, private string, gender, date of birth, SSN number. So to represent this form data in the backend, I'm taking one binding class. So this binding class will be using to capture the data in the form of object. In the front end, form will be available to store citizen application. So that form data will come in the form of this binding object. When we go for few applications, I will return list of objects to represent this data. Case number, name, mobile number, gender, SSN. All right. So this mobile number, I cannot take as a long, guys, because it is having some plus symbols and all. So I need to go with the string type. Mobile number, I'm going with the string type. The reason, if you see, it is having +1, hyphen, some characters are available. If I go with the long, only numbers are supported. When there are some special symbols in that, we need to go with the string data type. So I created one entity class. I created one repository interface to communicate with the database table. Then after service, application registration service, we need to create one interface here, new interface, that is AR service. In this interface, we need to write the methods. So very simple operation in the AR, guys. One is creating the application. Another one is displaying the applications. So which methods we need to use to create the application and display the application? So here we are going to write one method, public string create application. For that, app object will be using to get the data. Public string create application. So which application you want to create, the application data will come in the form of a binding object, and we need to display the applications. In order to display the applications, public list of apps, fetch applications. So do we need to fetch all the applications, or we need to fetch the applications based on the logged in user? We need to fetch the applications based on the logged in user. Which case worker is logged in into our application? Based on that case worker, which applications created by that case worker we need to fetch here. Which case worker logged in into our application? Based on that case worker ID, we need to fetch the applications and we need to display. If that logged in user ID is a admin, then we can get all the applications which are created. If that user ID belongs to a normal user, then we need to get the applications which are created by only that user. So there is a small requirement understanding is required. When you logged in as a case worker and when you go for view applications, all the applications will come, which are created by that particular case worker. When the admin logged in into the application, all the applications we need to display irrespective of the user ID. So that functionality we need to implement. So that's why we are taking that user ID. We are taking user ID to fetch the applications. Two methods we are writing. One is used to create the application. Another one is used to fetch the application. So for the create application, that user, the case worker will fill the details in the form, right? That form data is coming to the backend application so that it will be created. And one more method, fetch applications who logged in into our system. Based on that user ID, we need to fetch our application data. So this is our service interface. Guys, all of you look at this method. All of you look at these methods. Are you clear what are the methods we are taking? We are taking one method to create the application. We are taking another method to fetch the applications. Now, for this service, we need to write service implementation. For the service, we need to write the service implementation. AR service IMPL. Right. Implementation class. So how to do this implementation? Implements AR service. When we are implementing the interface, we need to override all the abstract methods. Right. Let us make it as a string bean by using @service annotation. All right. Let us go for create application method, which is responsible to create one application for the citizen. Are we going to create the application for every citizen, or there is a conditional check here? Guys, are we going to create the application for every citizen, or we need to follow some condition for that? Application will not be created for every citizen. If citizen belongs to Rhode Island state, then only application will be created. Otherwise, application will not be created. Okay. So first, we need to take that endpoint URL, private static final SSA web API URL. SSA web API URL will be available. Private static final string SSA web API URL will be available, which is used to communicate with the SSA web API. Got it? So to communicate with the SSA web API, we are going to use Webflux. To communicate with the SSA web API, we are going to use web flags. That means web client. Web client dot create, which is going to give us web client object. Which is going to give us web client object. Now, web client dot get dot URI dot URI, whatever the URL we have, that is SSA web API URL, comma app dot get SSN. We are going to send the SSN number as a http dot SSA dot web dot app slash SSN. Like this, SSN will be available as a path parameter. Assume that this is a dummy URL now. We will replace that with the original URL. Whatever the dummy API I have deployed in the Linux machine. So that Linux machine is not available in the AWS now. I will redeploy that application. Once we redeploy the application in the Linux machine, we are going to get one URL like this. This is the SSA web API URL. Okay. So in order to access this endpoint URL, we need to pass SSN number as a path parameter. So I'm creating the object for the web client.create. Then I'm using web client.get. I want to send a GET request for this URL to this URL with a SSN number. Then after dot body to mono dot get dot URI dot retrieve. I want to retrieve the response body to mono. I'm going to get state name as a response. Body to mono dot block. All right. It is going to return me string state name. It is going to return me the state name. So the given SSN number belongs to which state, I will get that state. Now what I will do is, if RI dot equals to that state name, if the state name is coming as a RI, then I want to create the application, valid citizen application. I need to create the citizen application. If this state name is not RI, then I don't want to create the application. I want to return saying that you are not valid to create the application. So here, this is the main important logic, guys. When we are trying to create the application for the citizen, application cannot be created for every citizen. So before going to create the application, we are making one web service call for the third party, that is SSA web application. So we are sending SSN number as an input for that third party API that will return state name of the citizen who is having that SSN number. That SSN number belongs to which state, it will return. If SSN is not valid, it will return empty. Okay. So if it is valid SSN, we will get the state name. If that state name is RI, then only that citizen is valid citizen application. So if it is a valid citizen application, then what we are going to do? We are going to create app entity. App entity is equal to new app entity. Then we are going to copy the data. Bean utils dot copy properties from app object to entity object. Then I want to insert that record into the table. For this we have app repo. I want to inject this repository object into our service class by using auto wiring. Got it? Using auto wiring, we are doing this injection. Then app repo dot save our entity object. So whenever this object is saved, we are going to get a saved entity. We are going to get the saved entity object. Let me reinitialize that. Entity we are going to get. Then I'm going to return application created with the case number. Application created with the case number, that is entity.get case number. So here the logic is very simple, guys. Observe. The logic is very simple. Throw new exception. That will throw the exceptions here. Whenever the request comes, it will come to create application. The create application will contain the form data. Once we get that form data, we are going to check that citizen SSN belongs to RI state or not. If it is belongs to RI state, then only application will be created. Otherwise, application will not be created. Application will not be created. Here I am going to return invalid SSN. I'm going to return invalid SSN. It is a bad request. We cannot create the application for the citizen. Look at the logic we are writing. We are taking the app object. We are taking the app object. App object contains the citizen information. We are taking app object. App object contains the citizen information. From that citizen information, we are taking only SSN number. We are verifying what is the state name of that SSN. If the state name is RI, then only that application will be created. Otherwise, application will not be created. When we are making a web service call, there is a chance of getting exception if the web service is down. So that's why I'm writing this web service access logic in the try catch blocks. Whenever the exception occurred in the try block, immediately it will go to the catch block. So we can create one user defined exception in our project and we can throw that exception. No, new class, I'm going to create one custom exception. Okay, SSA web exception. I want to represent this as a runtime exception. Extends from runtime exception. So there is a chance web service may be down. There is a chance that web service may be down. In that scenario, we are going to get the exception. String message, let me call super message. So I'm creating one user defined exception called SSA web exception. So whenever exception occurred, throw new SSA web exception. Throw new SSA web exception with e.get message. What is the reason for the exception? We can specify that here. I'm throwing the exception. If this web service logic is failed, then it will go to the catch block. In the catch block, I'm throwing the exception. If there is no exception, the record will be inserted, application will be created. Application will be created. Then that application will be returned with a success message along with the case number. App created with the case number, we are returning that case number. Suppose if it is not belongs to RI, then we are going to say invalid SSN. Simple. We are returning invalid SSN. Or else application will be created. Look at this method, guys. All of you able to understand how we are writing the method to create the application? All of you able to understand how we are writing the method to create the application? This is web service call by using web client. I want to communicate from one application to another application. We can communicate from one application to another application by using REST template or by using web client. Here we are using web client to send the request to this third party application. I'm giving SSN number as a path parameter. It will return the state name as a output. If that state is belongs to RI, application will be created. Otherwise, application will not be created. All good? In the app, we need to represent the user data also, guys, because this application is creating by which user, that user ID also required for us. Private integer user ID. Which user is creating this application? That user ID is a caseworker ID basically. That user ID is required for this. So application data, which user is creating that application, user ID will be available in this app entity. Copy the data to that entity dot set user. We need to set the user object. That user ID is available. In the app entity, we have the mapping with the user table. Okay, so we need to set the user record for this. Which user is creating that? We need to set the user record here before inserting the record. In the app entity, we are getting the app information along with the user data. Which user is doing that? We need to fetch that user ID. Based on the user ID, we need to fetch the user record. We need to set the user record. For that, we need to take user repository also. User repo is available, right? User repo should be there in this application as well. Once we have user repo in this application, then in the service we can implement user repo. Private user repo. Auto wiring is required for this. @auto wire. Based on user ID, we can get the user record. Okay. User repo dot find by ID with the app dot get user ID dot get. Now we will get the user entity. So for the app entity, we need to set the user entity. App entity dot set user. Set user, user entity we have retrieved based on the user ID because it is having a relationship. It is having a relationship. Which caseworker is creating this application? So that caseworker object we need to set for the entity. So from the request, for application data will come along with which user is creating this application. That user ID also will come. With that user ID, we are getting the user record. With that user record, we are creating our application. This is our app entity. Set user, then app entity dot get case number. With the case number, we are returning the response. Look at this. In the app table, citizen application will be created and the case number also will be generated. If that state is not belongs to RI, we are not going to execute this logic. Simply we will return invalid SSN. Fetch the applications based on the user ID. Which user created that application? We need to fetch the applications based on the user ID. So if you go to app repository, so user ID is not a primary key. So we need to write one custom method. Public list of app entity, find apps by user ID. Find applications by user ID. Find by user. Find by user ID. Find by user ID. We need to write a find by method. So this is app entity. App entity belongs to user object. Now let me go for a custom query. Fetch user apps based on user ID. Fetch user apps. First, let me fetch all the apps. If the logged in user is the admin, then I need to get all the applications. If the logged in user is admin, I need to get all the applications. If the user is not admin, then I need to get the applications which are created by that particular user. Fetch caseworker apps. Caseworker apps integer user ID will be available. Now we are going to write @query, then value is equal to, I'm going to find all the records based on the user ID. Okay. So how to do this? From app entity where user ID is equal to colon of user ID. So based on the given user ID, it will retrieve the applications. Which caseworker created those applications? Only those applications I want to retrieve. If you go to fetch user apps, it will retrieve all the applications. So for caseworker, this method will be executed. For caseworker, this method will be executed. For admin, this method will be executed. This is one way to do this. Or else you can go for query by example also. Guys, do you remember query by example concept? In the data JPA, we understood query by example. What is the meaning of query by example? To prepare the query dynamically. Instead of writing two methods in the repository, we can do that with the single method also. First, let me get the user record. User entity dot get role ID. What is the role of this user? If one double equals to role ID is admin, else he is caseworker. Okay. So if it is admin, we need to get all the applications. If it is caseworker, we need to get the applications based on the user. Okay, guys. So if it is a admin role, we need to fetch all the applications. If it is not a admin, we need to fetch the applications which are created by that particular caseworker. How can we do that? We can do that in two ways. Already I have written methods in the repository. You can call this method. You can call this method. Fetch user apps. It will retrieve all the user applications. Fetch records based on the given user ID. Anything is fine. Got it? Now, IMPL, if the role is 1, then I'm going to get app repo dot fetch user applications. It is going to retrieve all the user applications. Okay. So let me take it as list of app entity apps. Apps is equal to null value. Now let me store it. Apps is equal to user repository dot fetch user apps. Else, if the role ID is not 1, then what I will do? Apps is equal to app repo dot fetch caseworker apps based on the given user. That's it. So this is the logic, guys. If the user who logged in is an admin, then I will get all the applications. If the user is not an admin, then that means caseworker. The applications which are created by that particular caseworker, we will fetch here. I want to return list of apps here. To return the list of apps, we have entities. Entities should be converted to normal collection. List of apps. Here these are app entities. App entities is equal to fetch user apps, fetch caseworker apps. List of apps is equal to new array list. We need to convert from entity list to binding list. For this, I'm going to take each entity, app entity will be available. From app entities, we are going to get this. We are getting list of entities here. Entities are coming. Now I need to convert each entity. App is equal to new app right? Then copy the properties, bin utils dot copy properties from entity to app object, apps dot add of app. Then we are going to return apps. So what is the purpose of returning the apps here? I want to display all the applications in the view applications screen. How many applications are created by the case worker? It may be 1 or it may be 10, we can display. If it is admin, all the applications will come. If it is admin, all the applications will come. If it is a case worker, the applications which are created by that particular case worker, we can display. Look at this method. Guys, look at this method. Are you able to understand? Are we able to understand how we are fetching the applications to display in the AR module? Hey, someone please respond yes or no. I'm not getting any response from you guys. Are you able to understand how we are fetching the applications? You understood? Yeah. So mainly two methods. One is used to create the application. Another one is used to retrieve the applications. There is a chance of getting the web service exception. I have created one custom exception class for that. Now go for REST controller. Create AR REST controller @REST controller and inject app service, AR service, private AR service, injecting that object, auto wiring. We need to create one method which is used to create the application, one method to retrieve the applications. Okay. Public response entity, public response entity of string, create app. We are getting the app object. This app object will come as a request body. So let me take it as a request body. And this is used to create the record. So let me go for post mapping, that is application, which is used to create the application. AR service dot create application with the app object. It will return status. Okay, what is the status of that application? Is that application created or is that application not created? Is it success or is it failure? So what happened? Whether the application created or not created, we are going to specify in the message. If you go to our method, if the application is created, it will return the case number. If application not created, it will return invalid SSL. So I'm going to return new response entity. Whatever the status we are getting, that status comma HTTP status dot OK. Whether it is failure or success, HTTP status dot OK. I'm returning this response from our method. This is our post request method. You will get the application data. That application will be created and it will return the success message. If the application is created, case number will go as a response. If application is not created, error message will go as a response. This is our post request method to handle this form submission. The next one, view applications, it is a get request method. Public list of apps, get apps. To get the apps, we need user ID. Which user is trying to access the application. That user ID we can take as a path variable. Which user is trying to access? That user ID we can take as a path variable. Get mapping apps based on user ID. Which user is trying to access? Now return AR service dot fetch applications based on the given user ID. That's it. This method is used to create the application. This method is used to get the applications based on the user ID. If that user is belongs to admin, then all the applications we will get. If that user is belongs to case worker, only that particular case worker created applications will be written. One method is mapped to post request. One method is mapped to get request. And custom exception we have created, right? Whenever some problem occurred, that custom exception will be thrown. That exception we need to handle. What is the exception that we are getting? For that exception, we are going to create one binding class, how we have done in the morning class. App exception will be available. Here we are going to take the variables like private string exception code, private string exception description, what exception we are getting, private local date time, when that exception occurred, local date time will be available. Generate setters and getters for this. Click on generate. So whenever the exception occurred, that exception information we need to represent. For this, we need to create exception handler. App exception handler we need to create. So this exception handler we need to represent as a REST controller advice. And we need to write a method, public response entity, app exception. App exception handle SSA web exception. Whenever SSA web exception occurred, then we need to handle that exception in our application. That is a web service exception. So there is a chance of getting that web service exception. For that, we are writing one method, @exception handler, value is equal to SSA web exception dot class. Got it? So what is the reason for that exception? We need to set into app exception class is equal to new app exception dot set exception code. They will give some code for this kind of exceptions. In the project, they will give the set of codes. Set a description. Why exception is coming? We are going to get exception dot. Here we are taking app exception. Set code, set description, exception dot get message. Then we are going to return response entity. Return response entity. What is the reason for this app exception? HTTP status dot internal server error. Whatever the problem occurred, we are going to represent. When this method will be called? This method will be called whenever we get SSA web exception in the project. Whenever SSA web exception occurred in the project, then this method will be called. So here in our service layer, wantedly we are throwing this exception. So when there is some problem in our web service call, then we are throwing that exception. So whenever we throw this SSA web exception, immediately it will go to exception handler. This method will be executed. This method will be executed. Handler, custom exception. This is our REST controller. Two methods. One is for post mapping. Another one is for get map. Entity mapped with the table. Custom exception we created. This is our service IMPL. This is our service IMPL, where we have two methods. One method is used to create the application. Another method is used to fetch the applications. All right. Next one, config. Swagger config class. We already added that in the previous project. If we can take that Swagger config, we can keep in this project also. No need to write once again. Swagger config. Coming to constants, we can create one Java class as app constants. Whatever the constants you want, you can declare. If you see our project here, state name I am using as RI. Instead of a hard coding, we can declare that as a variable. Public static final string RI is equal to RI. So wherever we need this RI, we can take this constant. App constants dot RI. App constants dot RI that equals to state name. If the state name is RI, then that logic will be executed. Here invalid SSN text available, that also we can declare in the constant. Public static final string invalid SSN text. That message invalid SSN we are right. Now wherever we want to use that message, you can declare that constant. App constants dot invalid SSN, something like this. And we can implement logger also based on the requirement. Okay. We can implement logger also wherever we want to add the log messages. Those loggers we can add in this AR API. The main business logic I have implemented. Now we need to test this functionality. Currently, whatever the third-party URL I have given here, that URL is not working. This is not correct. We need to give the correct endpoint URL. I will update the correct endpoint URL for this. This URL will not work now because our SSA web application is not run. Our SSA web application will not run. We need to change that URL. So you got the basic clarity how we have developed this, guys. You got the idea how AR API implementation should be done. When to create the citizen application, how to fetch the citizen applications now. Are you guys able to develop like this? Are you guys able to develop AR API like this? If you watch my code, you will not get anything. You need to try this on your own. I have given 1 month of time for the people to develop the project. After 1 month, again, people asking, sir, please develop the code. That means you did not practice anything. 1 month of time you wasted. I gave 1 month of time. I have given the requirement 1 month back. I have given third-party URL. I have given the mock-up screens. I waited almost 1 month. I thought people will do that on their own. But at the end, they are asking, please write the code in the class. I can write the code in the class. Daily one API will complete. What is the benefit you are getting? You are just like watching a movie. Is there anything new to explain for you? Nothing. I'm just typing the code. You are just watching that. So if you do this coding on your own, then you will get that analysis and you will get that maturity. Okay, fine. So for your happiness, I will share this GitHub repository URL. Let me create one more repository in the GitHub for the AR API. So I want you to take this and test it. So can you guys do at least testing part? I'm doing the coding part. Can you guys do the testing part? AR API, IES AR API. Public, create the repository. Yes, I need to push this code again to the GitHub. Go to git bash. Guys, I'm not testing the code. Okay, I want you people to do the test. If there are any issues, I want you to identify the issues and fix them. Let me commit my code. Let me give the branch for this. Let me add the remote repository. Let me push my code. Yes, done. code push is completed to GitHub. Yes, this is AR API Git repository. I'm sharing this Git repository in the URL, the chat box. So compare your code with my code. Whatever the coding that you guys has done, if you have done that, you can compare, especially with the business logic, how I am trying to create the application and how I am trying to fetch the applications. I want you to test it. You just compare your code with this code. So can you guys test and let me know what are the issues we have? Can you guys test this code and let me know what are the issues available in this so that we can work on these fixes, code issue fixes. So blindly we are writing the code now. We need to test it thoroughly. All the functionality is working as expected or not. So basic business logic, you need to focus, create application, fetch application. So we need to test these functionalities are working as expected or not. I want you to test it and let me know, is there any mistake in this code? Is there any bug basically where we need code changes? I want to hear from you people so that we can fix those issues. All the bug fixes we can do one day. Okay. So tomorrow morning, we are going to start with data collection. Tomorrow morning, we are going to start with data collection. Tomorrow also, morning and evening class will be there. I want to complete data collection process by tomorrow. DC API morning class and evening class. Data collection API we have to complete. Got it? Perfect. Good, guys. Thank you. With this, I'm stopping for today. And good night. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, we'll start with the DC analysis. Tomorrow evening, we will do the DC coding. Tomorrow morning, we will see what we need to do for the data collection. Thank you, guys.